Gear regrets. I got my Marshall 1973 Plexi metal face amp back 35 years later. Not once, but 3 times. 1, neuralampmodeler, open source, online. 2, BluGuitar AMP1 Mercury Edition. 3, OCD, Fulltone pedal, Marshall setting. Right, so, well, I didn't really get my amp back 35 years later, but I certainly got the mojo going and all kinds of nostalgia feelings when I first plugged in the neural amp modeling profile that I had found for my particular amp that I had back then. Oh, it was exciting. It had that magic and that feel and that vibe that I remembered. Sometimes videos that compare things A, B, you know, dialing in sort of the same thing. Sometimes it's like apples and oranges. I think in this situation, we're at least in the same group. Say, you know, mandarin oranges, blood oranges, and tangerines in that same vibe. So why did I do this? If you've been playing long enough, and many of you will know and some will find out, that we all have that one that got away. The regret deal, you know, whether you traded it, sold it, or stolen, or, you know, whatever. So we tend to think about that from time to time. And for me, it was my purple 1973 Marshall JMP Lead head. And, you know, depending on what day of the week you ask me which one it was, the 1987 model, which is the Lead 50 watt, or the Super Lead 1959 model 100 watt, which is differentiated from the other one because it has had a vent on the top. Some days I remember that, some days I don't. But anyway, that was the amp, metal face, they called it. But it's the Plexi, because they used to have plexiglass front plates, control plates. So check it out. Here's a clip of me in 1990 playing that amp. Crazy, huh? Teenager. So, neural amp modeling project, open source, incredible. It's really come a long way. I checked in on the earlier days and throughout, and then recently when I found it, I was like, oh, maybe I can find my old Marshall in there and check that out. And I did, and I was super psyched. So I've got it actually in my physical loop of my pedal board, and that's the exciting thing that I wanted to do with the comparison of some of the Marshall sounds I already had. And kind of check in on that and see, oh, can I get that vibe? So having it looped into the physical board, I can use all my other effects and drives and whatnot. And so the plugin is running in my DAW, and here it is. And it's going into the plugin and then physically back out into the return of loop 1. So loop 1 is the neural amp model profile. Number 2 is the BluGuitar AMP1 Mercury Edition on the vintage channel. Number 3 is the OCD. And on the high peak Marshall mode, the high peak setting has that upper mids bump. And it has been called one of the Marshall in a box pedals. And I'm also using the Fender Engager Boost to cut some mids and add some more highs, like a treble booster, just to EQ a bit. The BluGuitar AMP1 is just with its own EQ settings, no boost on, drive on 6, and the neural amp model profile that I'm using, just a little bit of EQ after the plugin, an EQ plugin, taking out a little bit of the nasal 1-2K, and I think a teeny bump in the lower mid. So let's hear this a bit. So I will say that when doing these comparison videos, I can tell you from this end of the screen that there is a way that you can play, adjust your playing to the specific sounds to make them sound as similar as possible. And then there's other ways that we can play, switching to the neck pickup. That you'll hear more differences. So I'm going to do all of that, and when I'm switching around and playing. But on the bridge pickup, which in this case is the Andy Timmons DiMarzio, and the neck I'll be using is the Satch Track. And sometimes I split that. I'm not going to split this one for the sake of this video. But you might hear certain characteristics on different settings of the guitar that accentuate that they're not reacting exactly the same way. But overall, really cool. I knew that I was always playing certain sounds that I would dial in with whatever gear it was when I wanted that, and to be able to play the actual model provided by the awesome user group. And in this case, it is actually a 1972 Super Lead 100 by Idiofunk is the user that uploaded that profile. So big thanks to Idiofunk. Shout out, and check him out. Another user that I want to give a shout out to is Emil Robe, which I started with his 1973 Plexi Bright. You'll find that. And I think he's got an amp pack too. That's the one I was really digging on because that was my exact year. And the reason I went with the 1972 Super Lead instead is because these matched to that a little bit better. So for the purpose of this video, I think we were close enough to my actual old amp. So I'm going to play a bit more and jump through the sounds, and also use some of the other things on my board, which is the super cool thing about using the plugin physically through the loop. And the last thing I'll say about that before I play is big props to the Boss MS3. Not only is it providing the effect, reverb, etc., all things I always use, but it's taking each of the individual loops, and then it's going out into my solid state power amp, a universal platform. I thought that would be good for all three of these, because that's going actually to my cabinet in the ISO booth mic'd up. And I'll share a little fun story about that cabinet, because it's actually the 1973 Marshall cabinet that all I have left of the entire rig. So I'm going to play a bit now so you can hear these sounds, and I'm going to add some of my external effects on and off here and there. The micro vibe, the Bad Monkey tube overdrive, tube screamer, etc. So again, big thanks to the contributors that gave these great profiles on the Tone 3000, used to be Tone Hunt website, where you can access all these things for free. And I would encourage you to, if you have the ability, to run them into your live rig with your own cabinets. I'm not sure if anyone's doing this, but I had a great time doing it. So about that cabinet, you'll see here what it is actually that 412 slant. Not sure what model, 1960A, or it was matched to the head, both purple wonderfulness. But like selling the actual head, you know, I would always do what I had to do for each particular project I was in to achieve the goal. So I cut that cabinet in half and made two 212s. And it's been fantastic. And I did a custom plate wiring in it with all the options for stereo and the two speakers you'll see here. And they are mic'd with a E609 Sennheiser and a Shure 57. But it can be run in mono or stereo, like in this case, or just one of each single speaker by itself. Very cool. And I have the other 212 bottom. That's the slant top that I turn sideways and roll around. Anyway, fun. And I thought it was fitting to play it with these tributes to that old Marshall amp of mine, and get a little bit of magic back in that wood box. So, you know, have some fun, experiment with this stuff yourself. And again, kudos and thanks to the community for the neural amp modeling project. It's been a lot of fun, and it gave me great nostalgia and joy for this one. Take care.